What up, everybody? The main storyline going into the Tulsa King Season 3 finale is Jeremiah Dunmire having one of his goons abduct Dwight's sister Joanne at the end of episode 9. And what's Dwight's next move gonna be after Dunmire did this? As the episode 10 trailer has Dunmire on the phone with Dwight telling him blood or bourbon and asking him what was more important to him. So now Dwight is in the same dilemma that he put Jeremiah Dunmire in earlier in Season 3 when Cole had stole the Montague 50-year bourbon collection and Dwight and his crew stole it back by putting Cole at gunpoint and forcing Jeremiah to choose between the bourbon or his son's life. And now Dwight is stuck, forced to make a choice between the bourbon or his sister. Another scene from the trailer shows Joanne in a chair asking Cole if he thinks that Dwight's gonna let them get away with doing that. This is after Cole was telling Joanne if she just gave up the booze it would all be over with. So again, the Dunmires are trying to force Dwight to hand over the Montague 50-year bourbon collection to them. And one of the scenes that shows Joanne in Dunmire's office also shows that Dunmire has an axe in there as well. This is the same axe that he was beating something with after he lost his temper in episode 9 and that he also held to Cole's face. Because of Dunmire targeting Joanne, Dwight is preparing to go to war in episode 10 to settle things with Jeremiah Dunmire once and for all. The trailer has Dwight telling somebody that he's going to need some real manpower and some real hitters. After Dwight says that, it shows his crew, Goody, Tyson, Mitch, and Bigfoot, loading up with some heavy ammunition. Then the trailer has a voiceover of Jeremiah Dunmire telling Joanne that she can blame her blood for this. This could potentially be Jeremiah killing Joanne because he finds out that Dwight's trying to make a move against him instead of handing over the bourbon. Or it could potentially be Dunmire using that axe to do something like cutting off one of Joanne's fingers or her hand to give Dwight an extra incentive to hand over the bourbon to him. Then the trailer shows a preview of Dwight's ambush of the Dunmire's estate, either to try to get Joanne back or to take out Dunmire if he ends up killing Joanne. One of the scenes from this ambush shows two guys with guns running outside of Dunmire's house. Then another shows Russell Lee Washington about to take a shot at somebody. After that, a clip of an explosion taking place right outside of Jeremiah Dunmire's house in his front yard, while Dwight's sneaking up through the woods. With the explosion that takes place in Jeremiah Dunmire's front yard, I'm reminded how the Dunmires took out Theo Montague in episode 1 by lighting his house on fire with him in it, and wonder if Dwight and his crew could get revenge by potentially taking out Jeremiah Dunmire in the same way. And with that said, a wild card when it comes to Dwight and his crew going after the Dunmires is Cleo Montague and her desire to get revenge on the Dunmires for what they did to her father. And with Cleo returning to Tulsa at the end of episode 9, I got to believe that she's going to be involved in this storyline in some type of way. And another wild card that could come into play when it comes to Dwight getting Joanne back is Cole Dunmire and his secret relationship with Spencer. The trailer also shows a clip with Russell Lee Washington walking into the Bread to Buck and saying, "You can cut the tension in here with a knife." And then it shows Dwight's crew standing at the bar with Dwight telling them about the dilemma concerning Joanne. But there's no guarantee that what Russell's talking about has to do with Dwight and his crew concerning the situation at hand with Joanne. Either though, it does most likely have something to do with that at the same time. But Russell Lee arrived at Tulsa just in time to help Dwight fight his war against Jeremiah Dunmire, and will come in valuable for Dwight having a skilled assassin on his side when he goes to battle. But the big question is, what's next for Russell Lee Washington after he helps Dwight fight the battle against the Dunmires? Will he stay around Tulsa for a minute and be in season 4, or will he leave immediately after he helps Dwight with his current dilemma and head back home to New Orleans to plant his flag? We do know that Quiet Ray is pissed off that Russell Lee didn't follow through and take out Dwight. So he's gonna have a target on his back from Quiet Ray as long as Ray's in the picture, alongside Dwight, who Ray also has a contract out on. So the next time we see Dwight and Russell team up again in Season 4 or The Noya King, it could potentially be to come up with a plan to take out Ray. But with that said, at the end of Episode 9, Dwight and Russell took out two guys at the Masters Inn Hotel who were potentially the hitters that Ray sent to Tulsa to take them both out. But like I talked about in my recap video, make sure to go on my page and check out that video if you haven't yet. But I talked about how I feel like those two men had nothing to do with Ray and the Italian mob, and how I think Dwight and Russell potentially killed two innocent civilians that had nothing to do with this. Keep it in mind, after this happened, it showed Vince walking up to the hotel. So because Mitch's intel only mentioned one guy from New York and not multiple guys, I think they were likely talking about Vince and not those two guys. But either way, we know that Vince is also in Tulsa right now, and that will also play a factor in the episode 10 storyline. Whether he's there as a hitter who Ray sent to take out Dwight and Russell trying to earn his stripes, or if he's just there to keep an eye on Russell, or potentially in town for something else altogether, like trying to figure out what's going on with Bill Bevilacqua. And with that said, that's another storyline that's been ongoing for a few episodes now. After Bevilacqua was stopped and detained by Musso's men, and last seen screaming for food and a phone call in an interrogation cell. And it's been a few episodes now since this took place, and we don't know how many days have passed since Bevilacqua got detained, or if he's even got a phone call to tell his crew and his family where he is. So at this point, there could also be a problem, keeping in mind that the last place he was seen was at Dwight's house confronting him. And sticking with Bevilacqua and his crew, another storyline that we haven't heard about for a few episodes is Bodie and his revenge plot on Cowboy Art. Bodie was supposed to be wrecking Cowboy Art's life by hacking into all his personal information. And with that said, the trailer also shows Bodie grabbing a gun from his safe. And we know Bodie isn't somebody who Dwight recruited to go to war with him, so he's likely grabbing that gun in regards to the situation involving himself and Cowboy Art. Another storyline that I think we'll see come to a head in the season finale is Tyson's X-Pill operation, and how multiple members of Dwight's crew have been keeping this a secret from Dwight because of the fact they're getting a cut off of it. And in episode 9, Tyson and Spencer were trying to sell pills at a club when a guy standing at the balcony saw what they were doing and had the security guard put them out. So I think Dwight will find out what Tyson's been doing, and that could potentially be why the trailer shows Russell saying that you can cut the tension in here with a knife, because he might be walking in while Dwight's addressing that situation. And the final storyline that I think we'll see come to a head in the season 3 finale is Cal Thresher as he's running for governor. I think we'll likely see the results of this campaign, whether he wins or loses, in the season finale, and also how this involves Margaret and how it could potentially affect Dwight and Margaret's relationship. And there you have it. Leave your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments.